الله الرحمن الرحيم وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله حق قدره ومقداره العظيم. We stopped yesterday at the saying of the Mu'allif rahmatullahi alayhi وَلَا تُصَلَّى نَافِلَةٌ بَعْدَ صَلَاةِ الصُّبْحِ إِلَى طِلَاعِ الشَّمْسِ. He was telling us the times which are forbidden for the mukallaf to perform nafila prayers in. Number one, he said the morning prayer, the nafila prayers are not performed after the morning prayer until the sun has risen. وبعد صلاة العصر إلى صلاة المغرب, after Asr prayer until the prayer of Maghrib. وبعد طلوع الفجر, and after the first light of dawn, which is the beginning of the time of Fajr. He said at that time no one is allowed to perform any nafila prayer إلا الورد لنائم عنه, except for a regular routine of prayers that one overslept and was not able to perform. Of course, one can think of the 2 rak'at of Fajr. According to Maliki scholars, those 2 rak'at are raghiba, Fajrun raghibatun, wa tuqta liz-zawal wal-fardu yuqda abadan wa bit-tawal. Those 2 rak'at, they are not only sunnah, but they are excessively recommended, highly recommended by the Prophet ﷺ to perform. So they're not only seen as regular nafil prayers. The 2 rak'at of Fajr, the Prophet ﷺ said, they are better for him than everything that is under the sun, everything that is in this dunya. Then he said, وَعِنْدَ جُلُوسِ إِمَامِ الْجُمُعَةِ عَلَى الْمِنْبَرِ. We actually went through the ahadith and the proofs that would be the dalil, the proofs for these things. He said, these times, he said, prayers, nafil prayers are forbidden to perform in. He said, وَعِنْدَ جُلُوسِ إِمَامِ الْجُمُعَةِ عَلَى الْمِنْبَرِ, when the imam of the Friday prayer sits on the minbar. Actually, the Maliki scholars, they have difference with the Jumhur when it comes to the forbiddance of offering prayer when the imam sits on the minbar to give khutbah. In Muwatta, Ibn Shihab, the Sheikh of Imam Malik rahmatullah alayhi, said, فخروج الإمام يقطع الصلاة وكلامه يقطع الكلام. When the imam comes to perform the khutbah, he said no one is allowed to pray anymore. And when he starts giving the khutbah, no one is allowed to speak anymore. The Hafidh ibn Abdul Barr said this is the proof that in Salat to be silent, وَقَطْعُ الصَّلَاةِ, and to cut one's of salah عند خطبة الجمعة, when the imam is offering khutbah of Jum'ah, ليس برأي, it is not an opinion, وإنه sunnah, it is a sunnah. He said احتج بها Ibn Shihab, that Ibn Shihab uses it as a proof, لأنه خبر عن علم علمه لا عن رأي اجتهده. He said this is something that he said because it is knowledge he knows, not an opinion he gave. And he said وَعَمَلٌ مُسْتَفِيضٌ بِهِ, and it is a known action that was done during Zaman Umar ibn al-Khattab, during the Khilaf of Sayyidina Umar ibn al-Khattab, and وَغَيْرِهِ, and other than him رضي الله تعالى عنه. But there is a hadith in which a man came to the masjid, the Prophet ﷺ were giving khutbah, and the Prophet ﷺ told the man to perform 2 rak'ah and make it short and listen. And the Maliki, they said that a man was entering and going through the sufu. The Prophet ﷺ told him to sit down. So how to put together these two opinions? If you want to do the jam'ah, is if one was there in the masjid, and when Imam comes to give the khutbah, he wanna go up and do the nafla, we tell him no, it's forbidden. But if one arrives, even though Imam is giving the khutbah, then let him do the 2 rak'ah of tahiyatul masjid and sits. So that is the best way we can put these two opinions together. Then he said, وَبَعْدَ الْجُمُعَةِ حَتَّى يَخْرُجَ مِنَ الْمَسْجِدِ. After the Jummah prayer, until he leaves the masjid. This is another mas'ala of ikhtilaf too. That when we finish the Jummah, one is forbidden, meaning is forbidden, not haram, but forbidden of karaha. It's not recommended that one prays or offers nafla prayer right after Jummah unless one goes out the masjid, goes out of the masjid. And the dalil of this is hadith Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhu, in which he says, أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم كان يصلي بعد الجمعة ركعتين في بيته. That the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم used to offer 2 rak'ah after Jummah in his house. And the love of the Muslim, this riwayah in Muslim is فكان لا يصلي بعد الجمعة حتى ينصرف فيصلي ركعتين في بيته. That the Prophet ﷺ did not offer naflu prayer after Jummah until he leaves and offers them or performs them in his house. So this is a dalil that the Prophet ﷺ used to leave the masjid right after Jummah without performing nafl. And the ayah in Surah Al-Jummah, Allah says, فَإِذَا قُضِيَتِ الصَّلَاةُ فَانْتَشِرُوا. When the prayer is performed, when the prayer is over, فَانْتَشِرُوا. The fa here means right after go. And Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala anhu, whenever he finished leading the Jummah prayer, the first thing he would do, كان إذا صلى بالناس الجمعة صاح بهذه الآية. He would shout out this ayah for people, and then you will see people running to go, to leave the masjid. Actually, some other scholars, they have other ideas, other opinions. Of course, it's not an idea. It is, all the opinions of the scholars, they're not mere opinions from their desires. This is the result, the fruit of their excessive ijtihad to understand the text. Because the text can be, proven to be said by the Prophet ﷺ, but the meaning of the text can be dhanni. So people need to know that sometimes we say kitab and sunnah. Kitab, everything without any doubt, the Quran is the word of Allah, qat'i, no doubt. But the meaning, most of the ayat, the meaning of most of the ayat, they are not qat'i. They accept, they do not even accept, they require excessive scientific work in order to grasp the fruit of it, the meaning of it. By doing so, the scholars, they have, differences of opinion whether this means this or means that. Especially the ayat of ahkam, the ayat on rulings. But let one not think that because these hours are not to be, one cannot offer prayers, naflu prayers in them, or they are forbidden for one to pray in them, that one think miss the prayers, I cannot offer them after Jummah or after Salatul Fajr or after Asr. No, the missed prayers, the obligatory prayers that are missed, have to be performed at any time you have the ability to. You cannot wait. Then he said, وَشُرُوطُ الصَّلَاةِ طَهَارَةُ الْحَدَثِ. فصل في شروط الصلاة. فصل في شروط الصلاة. Section on the conditions of the prayer. And he said, شروط الصلاة طهارة الحدث وطهارة الخبث من البدن والثوب والمكان وستر العورة واستقبال القبلة وترك الكلام وترك الأفعال الكثيرة. Actually, the four are conditions of salah, but the two last ones, they have to be discussed because they are part of the salah. Because a condition is something without which the thing you are doing is not, the ibadah is not valid, but it's not part of the ibadah. A condition is something that if you don't do, the ibadah you are doing is invalid, but it's not part of the ibadah. That's the difference. That's why there's a difference between shart and rukn. When you say the pillars of salah or the fara'id of salah, these are things without which the salah is invalid, but they are part of the salah. The conditions of the salah, they are things without which the salah is invalid, but they are not part of the salah. So he said, well, the conditions for the prayer are, he said, number one, taharatu al-hadath. وشروط الصلاة طهارة الحدث. Purity from hadath. Meaning when one is in need of wudu or ghusl, one must do them before prayer. For if you do not do them before prayer, your prayer is invalid. Because the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, لا تقبل صلاة بغير طهور. Salah without wudu, without purity is not accepted. In the ayah, in Surah An-Nisa, Allah says, يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا قمتم إلى الصلاة فاغسلوا وجوهكم وأيديكم إلى المرافق وامسحوا برؤوسكم وأرجلكم إلى الكعبين وإن كنتم جنبا فاطهروا وإن كنتم مرضى أو على سفر أو جاء أحد منكم من الغائط أو لامستم النساء فلم تجدوا ماء فتيمموا صعيدا طيبا فامسحوا بوجوهكم وأيديكم منه ما يريد الله ليجعل عليكم من حرج ولكن يريد ليطهركم وليتم نعمته عليكم لعلكم تشكرون. Actually, the ayah is in Surah Al-Ma'idah. It explains if one has to make salah, one has to go and make wudu. If he cannot make wudu for valid reasons, then one has to perform tayammum. So taharatul hadath is the first condition. The other conditions that are coming, the other three conditions that are agreed to be conditions that are coming, if one forgets them until he finishes the prayer is valid. But this first condition, prayer cannot be valid without it. If you make salah and you forgot that you didn't make wudu, and you remember right after salah that, oh, I didn't make wudu, your salah is not valid. But these three conditions that are coming, if you forget them until after salah, your salah is valid. So this is the most important condition. That's why he starts with taharatul hadath. Number two, taharatul khabath. Purity from khabath, which means to be pure, to remove the impurities on one's body, clothing, and place of prayer. وطهارة الخبث من البدن والثوب والمكان. So if you know that there is impurity on your body, your garments with which you pray, or the place on which you pray, then your prayer is invalid. But if you do not know, or you forget until you finish the prayer, you think, oh, there is some impurity in my body or on my thought, your prayer is valid because you forgot. Or you did not forget, but you didn't have any choice. Meaning that's the only garment you have, and you don't have anything with which you can clean it. You don't have anything else. You have impurity on your body, but you have nothing to remove it. So you cannot. That's why بالذكر والقدرة. If one does remember it and one is able to remove, then this is a condition for the salah to be valid. Number 4, he said واستقبال القبلة, to face the qibla. Number 3, he says وستر العورة, to cover one's nakedness. Number 4, to face the qibla. وترك الكلام وترك الأفعال الكثيرة. I suggest I leave these things until tomorrow night بإذن الله تبارك وتعالى. هذا وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله حق قدره ومقداره العظيم.
آمين يا رب العالمين.